Hello guys, my name is Gavin, and this will be a tutorial on how to display the target health bar. So we're going to use a ray sensor to find a target in the game, which will be another cube object. And once we have a target, it will display that health bar, and then it will make that health bar invisible. Alright, I am going to get started. So let's right click on this right leg here and hit X and delete, and right click on this camera and hit X and delete. X delete. Then what we're going to do is copy this cube by hitting Shift and D, and drag it over here. Let's rename this cube to, let's say, enemy like this, and I will drag this back in. Let's now right click on our main cube right here. We can actually just rename this to player if we want. Let's go from defaults to game logic and go from blender render to blender game. Alright, now that we are in this, what we're going to do is on our cube, let's add two different keyboard sensors. The key for this one will be A, and we'll just type left. And this keyboard will be D, it'll be right, and we'll have D like this. Add two motion actuators like this. And for the Z-axis, let's put 2 because this is left at the top. And let's put -2 for right. Okay, connect these like this. And we should see if I hit P to play, I can tap and the keyboard will rotate the cube. Okay, now that we have this, what we're going to do is add an always sensor on our main cube right here, or our player object. And we're going to add a Python controller and connect it like this. Let's now do templates Python and the game logic simple. Delete the portion that I've highlighted like this. Okay, before we go into our script though, let's add a ray sensor because I forgot to do that. Let's make the range of this ray sensor 100, and let's rename it to ray all lowercase. And since our cube doesn't have a property over here, we're just going to leave this property box as blank. And I'm going to rename this to rayObjects.py. That'll be the name of the script, and I'll add that right here. Connect your ray sensor to it and minimize this. Okay, now that we got this, let's hit Control and scroll up to make our text larger. And let's import render from the BGE. So do from BGE import render. And so then below this, let's define our ray sensor that we attached to our script. We're doing ray is going to equal const.sensors ray like this. Now that we have that, let's test to see our ray works. So let's have if ray.positive. We're going to do render.drawLine own.world position ray.hits position 1, 0, 0, actually not comma, just have it like this. So render.world position, or render.drawLine from the position of the object to the hit position like this, so we can see it'll draw a red line whenever our ray is touching the object. Okay, now what we're going to do is add a game property to our main player like this. This player will be, this property will be called target's name like this. Sorry. And what we're going to do is have if array is positive, we're going to have the variable targets is going to equal ray.hitObjects like this. Then what we're going to do is have own target name, our string game property, is going to be equal a string of targets. Alright, now that we have that, let's have an else statement, and let's have own target name is going to equal nothing like that. So if we're hovering our ray over the object, the string target name will be equal to the name of the object, and if we're not, then it will take that away. Okay, so if I hit this I and then do game and then show debug properties, we can see if we have P, it's going to equal that at the top like this. Alright, so now that we have that, what we are going to do is right click on our enemy object and let's do object, snap, and then cursor to selected. I'm going to hit 7 to go in the top view and do spacebar and then add a plane. This plane is going to mimic our health bar, so let's drag it just above our player object and do R, X, and 90. If we play it from this angle, we can see that the plane is going to be above our player like this, or our enemy object like this. Sorry. I'm now going to hit S and X to scale down this plane. And I'm going to hit Shift and right click on our enemy object, and hit Control P and parents this object. So if I drag this over here, you'll see the plane follows. Okay. Now that we have that, what we're going to do is on our enemy object, let's add an always sensor with these first 3 dots selected. And let's add a Python controller and connect it like this. Let's then right click and shift and right click shift and right click on your plane and add an always sensor. Rename it as plane like this. Minimize this and connect it to your Python controller. Let's now create a new script by doing templates Python and the game logic simple. I'm going to write a simple script for our enemy now to determine whether or not it is actually the target at the time. So let's rename this to enemy script.py and add this right here. And what we're going to do is inside of our enemy script, we want to actually make the player something to edit inside the script. So let's import the scene is going to be equal to bg.logic.getCurrent scene. Then we're going to have player is going to equal scene.objects player. What we're now going to do is get the always sensor from our plane and define it within our script. So it's a plane is going to be equal constant sensors plane. And the reason why we do this, and what we're going to do is actually toggle the visibility of the plane through its sensor. And the reason why we do this is that the plane, whenever we copy it with a new object, is going to have a different name, so we wouldn't want to have a new script for every single object. It would just kind of get irritating. What we're now going to do is if we right click back in our player, we can see that there has the game property target name. So what we're going to do is have if player target name is equal to own.name like this. What we're going to do is have plane.owner.setVisible 1. And else, or if the player is not targeting that specific object, plane.owner.setVisible 0. So if we hit play now, we can see, I think there's actually an error really quick, hold on. Double equal. My mistake. Hit play now, and we can see whenever we hover our object, or our red laser, or array sensor, over the enemy, it will turn the enemy's health bar visible. Now, let's say that we copy this enemy a whole bunch of times. So shift and right click on both the health bar and the object. Hit shift and D, drag these enemies a bunch of times, hit P, and you can see it'll toggle their health bars individually. Okay guys, that is how you display health bars with array sensor. I hope you guys like this video. I'll leave the script open for just one more second. There's your first script. And there's your second script.